And welcome back. You are watching GloTalks. My name is Lindi Rasekoala. Right, before we get into this episode, I would like to give a huge thank you to everyone who has been supporting me. This is just the beginning of something new. Please like, comment and subscribe to my channel. Right, today I have a guest who may just answer all of our questions. Please welcome certified intimacy and relationship wellness coach, Lindi Rasekoala. Rasekoala.
Like koala bear.
Like Rasekoala.
Yes,
I
you
like
said it right.
I like that. Yeah. Hello, how you doing?
I'm good, how are you?
I'm fine, thank you. Welcome to my show.
Thank you, it's so nice to be here.
How was your journey here?
Nice and short, wasn't too far.
Yeah.
I was quite relaxed considering all week I was a bit nervous, but now I'm chilled.
How do you feel about playing a game?
Oh, I love games.
You like games?
Let's go.
Would you rather?
Like winning. Ooh, okay. Okay, make it juicy.
Make it juicy. Everything's magnet, so don't worry.
Oh, okay.
And you.
Oh, how did you know I like pink?
I didn't.
I'll start with that.
But you don't even have to take anything off. Just flip the board if you want to write.
Oh, that is dope. I want one of these at home.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but
okay.
I think we should like turn it up a notch.
Yeah, let's make it.
I mean, I've got the expert in the room. Do you know what I'm saying? So we might as well just turn it up a notch.
I'm ready.
I'm freestyling here, so don't judge me, guys.
Okay,
yeah,
cool.
I swear to you. Would you rather doggy or cowgirl? I went straight in the middle.
Wow, that is actually a tough one. Oh, okay. That's you know what?
Are you gonna explain your answer?
Do I have to explain my answer?
I mean,
okay, fine. But are we gonna reveal our answers at the same time?
We can do 3, 2, 1.
Did you draw it down? Oh, he's a cowgirl. Oh, okay, you lazy mother. Am I allowed to swear?
No, you can definitely swear. You can definitely swear, but I can explain my answer.
Okay, so the reason I choose doggy is because I think that you can go longer because there's less work to put in.
Who can go longer than?
I can, as a person who is doing the...
Oh, so you're being lazy now.
Oh, I knew you were going to come for that. Anyway, so yeah, and I think like it's a little bit more empowering for me to know that I'm fucking back because a lot of people don't fuck back. When you're doing doggy, you're getting fucked. But you can actually do a lot when, you're on your hands and your knees, or depending on what kind of doggy. So that's why I would choose that. Cowgirl is... It's a bit boring being on top. I'm not even going to lie. Like, I don't personally find pleasure from it. So when you're doing cowgirl, it literally is for the guy, personally. But doggy, I'm enjoying, and I know you're enjoying too. So, yeah.
Do you know what it is? It's like, cowgirl, me personally, I'm in control still. And I like the fact that I can control the height, the depth, the speed.
Oh, so
you get
it's
me?
more a feeling thing.
It's more of a feeling thing, and on top of that, we've got like more of a connection as well. Cause
oh, you're cute.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that. No,
I love that.
You wanna change your answer now, innit?
I don't. I'm trying to fuck back. Okay,
cool.
Let's do another one. Okay, let me do the next one, and then you can do the one after this.
All right, cool.
We'll do like 3.
All right,
okay.
cool.
Would you rather have sex with a transgender or a male-on-male threesome where you have to engage with the man?
Wait, hold on. Wait. How? Wait, hold on. Wait. Wait, hold on.
You have to answer.
Wait, that's not fair. Do you know why?
Why?
Because, I'm not interested in men. So
we're not going according to preferences based on what you actually do. It's a would you rather.
Could you repeat the question?
Okay, would you rather have sex with a transgender?
No, this is hard.
Or would you rather have a threesome with another man where there has to be some form of engagement? It doesn't have to necessarily be like
Wait, hold on, hold on, wait. In terms of my religion, yeah, answering this question, I'm gonna get a lot of backlash.
Technical. Look at how we're getting technical.
Wait, if I answer this question,
you are answering for the sake of answering and not because those are your actual views. So let me make it easy for you.
Please make it a lot easier.
This is not what he actually would do. This is not something he would actually engage in. He currently has a gun to his head and he has no choice but to answer. So
shit then.
He is going to answer the question. Would you rather have sex with a transgender, or would you rather have sex with another man and there has to be some form of engagement between the two of you?
What was the first one?
A transgender.
And there's... wait, hold on. Wait, hold on.
What a tough one.
I can't... wait, hold on. Hold on. This answer is too mad for me, I swear to you. It's too crazy for me. But you know what it is? You're a sex therapist. And obviously, yeah, these are not my views. But I'll answer.
Like I said,
for the sake of the game.
It's just for the sake of the game. You should never have given me the mic. Are we ready?
Yeah. 3, 2, 1. I put first one.
So transgender.
Yeah.
That's fair. You know, there's a lot of men who engage with transgenders and don't actually know that at some point they were a man. Or
is it?
Because transgender can go either way.
I actually posed this question to someone the other day, yeah. Do you think, yeah, that transgenders, whether you're male or female, should be able to declare that they're transgender before going into a relationship with the other half?
I think if you're going into a relationship with anybody, you should be as honest and as transparent as possible.
Yeah.
Why would you want to deceive somebody into being with you without full knowledge of what they're getting themselves into?
Yeah.
So I definitely think it's something that would need to be not necessarily declared, because you're not forced to like say your status or your sexual orientation or whatever. But I do think based on the fact that you want a relationship with this person, you should be as transparent as possible.
Yeah, because I saw a post the other day, one of them game shows, some girl was like, to the guy like, kiss me or whatever, and he went and kissed her, and then after the fact, she revealed that, I'm a transgender. But it's like, it was like...
It's a bit deceiving. It's like just because you don't have to tell people the status of like your HIV status, do you not go and tell people that you...
Oh, do you say you don't have to?
You don't.
That's crazy.
You don't. It's a personal thing.
So if someone's got HIV, they don't have to declare that they've got HIV?
It's the right thing to do, but they don't have to, because it's their own personal status that they don't need to share with anybody.
So I can't... But surely I can sue someone for not telling me that I've got that they've got HIV.
It's a deliberate, or it could be deemed as something deliberate. But there's people who are living with HIV and they're not transmitting it, so they don't necessarily need to disclose that.
Before we get to your profession, I want to get to know you a bit more. I want to know like who you are. Okay. I can hear you've got an accent, very strong accent as well.
Everyone says that. I find it funny.
Let's take it back to where you come from, how was you raised up, and so forth.
Okay, so I am half Ghanaian, half South African. I am 34. I was born in Manchester, but moved to South Africa and Kenya. I lived most of my life in Africa. I just recently moved back to the UK 2 years ago, so I can't really say that I grew up here.
Yeah.
I come from a very liberal family, very open. We're very in love with one another, very codependent, but very transparent with one another. And I think that's definitely shaped who I am today, because I am exactly the same way. I'm very transparent. I wear my heart on my sleeve. I say it like it is. Not in all instances, because I'm still human, but I was raised very liberally. My parents... My mom's Ghanaian and my dad's South African, but they've also had quite a lot of exposure to different cultures, and I think that has contributed to just how we tolerate all of the information that we get from different people.
Yeah.
I studied international relations.
Oh, you did?
I did.
Okay.
I was really interested in
South Africa.
And just trying to understand how the world works together, how it's functioning, how our history shapes where we're currently at. So that was an interesting point to study. I was a token Black girl most of my life.
Could you explain what that means?
So in South Africa, obviously we have the history of apartheid, which, there's a lot of segregation between the different races. And because I didn't necessarily grow up there from the get-go, when I lived in Kenya first, I then moved to South Africa, and I was 10 years old when I moved.
Yeah.
And I just wasn't Black enough for the Black people because I couldn't speak South African language. And also there's just a lot of parents teaching their children, like, this person's a traitor, this person's this, her father didn't grow up here, so he's, and that trickles down to like the children. So I wasn't Black enough for the Black people. I definitely am not white, but that was probably where I spent most of my time because they were more accepting of who I was. Also because I have this accent, I sounded better than the average Black.
Yeah, that's crazy to think.
So I was just, I was bullied quite a lot. I was called a foreigner quite a lot. There's also a lot of xenophobia in South Africa.
What, you was bullied by white?
By Black people.
By Black South Africans. And
they would call me a coconut. Like,
because you spoke English, or because
it's the only language I speak.
Yeah.
They would call me a foreigner because my mother's Ghanaian. Yeah. So there was just a lot of different social issues that kind of came up around the fact that I'm not fully South African, nor did I grow up there. And I think that also somewhat contributed to how I engaged with Black people. It was only until university where everything was a level playing field, and then I could just start to have friends that I was super comfortable with. The other Black girls that I was friends with in high school were not South African as well. So it's almost like the foreigners united.
Why not?
And then university, I had a bit of a wild one.
Go on, hold on. Let's not zoom through your life. Let's break it down. How was university for you?
Okay, so I was not necessarily a late bloomer. I went to a Catholic girls' school. Okay. And although I wasn't necessarily trying to avoid having sex, I just didn't have it until after high school. So it was just before I started university, like that week after Christmas when my final high school year, and I lost my virginity. And it was probably the best thing that's happened to me, because I feel like it just sprung up this level of confidence that made me feel primal. It made me feel wanted. It made me feel desired. It made me feel sexy. And that shaped a lot of everything else that I did. I was very sensual before that.
Sensual?
I think, I was very confident in myself. My self-esteem was relatively high in terms of how I felt about my appearance, or, how I felt about the opposite sex. But having sex elevated that.
How old was you at this age?
I was 18.
So you was 18?
Yeah.
Feeling liberated?
Yeah.
Feeling
like a woman. Feeling very, very sexy. And it also helped with the person that I was having sex with, who I lost my virginity to. He was like one of my best friends since I was 12 years old. So it was a safe space. It was comfortable. And he's actually one of my best friends now. So, and that just kind of shot me into a space of constantly speaking about the things that I was doing. If I was having sex, I wasn't scared to say it. If I wasn't having sex, I wasn't scared to say it. I was just very open. And I think a lot of people felt comfort in that, because they were like, oh, okay, well, I can be open about things too. Fast forward to after university.
What did your parents, did they gauge that sexual energy from you?
I told my parents. So I got, you have that freshers week just before you start university, where all the first years come together and you have there's a beer tent. Well, this is what happens in South Africa. There's beer tents and you have just little activities getting to know the university, and then you start classes like a week later.
Yeah.
So in that freshers week, I got so drunk on like vodka jelly shots. And because I'm very open with my family, I had never hidden anything from my parents. So I think in my drunk state, the guilt of not having told my parents, I lost my virginity in your house, I told my mom in my drunk state, and I didn't remember that I actually did until I got home the next day. And she was like, we need to have a talk. So I was like, okay, yeah, what's up?
Yeah.
And she was like, are you using condoms? And I was like, who told you? I was so upset. I thought it was my siblings who told me, told her. But it was actually me. I was so drunk.
Yes.
I just didn't know.
Oh, that's the best way to tell her.
That's when I found out I was allergic to latex. So
what?
That's a different story.
So how did you find out that you was allergic to latex?
I used a condom for when I lost my virginity. Okay, the second time, was the first time I didn't. But the second time I used a condom and I got a rash and I was itchy and I thought I got an STD. I was so upset.
Yeah.
I was like, what did you give me?
Yeah.
Only to find that it was just an allergy to the latex.
Yeah.
Which also kind of got me to when I started my YouTube channel, which was 2017.
Yeah.
I wanted to understand myself sexually. I wanted to understand why my parents had put me through all this private school education and I was so knowledgeable and they spent all this money on education, but I just didn't know the difference between an STD and a rash and discharge. And I'm like, why do I not know those things?
Yeah.
I'm supposed to learn those things in school. But sex is such a taboo in a lot of places that we just weren't learning the things that will help you navigate life. So we were learning, don't get pregnant, don't do drugs, but not how to have sex, how to not have sex if you don't want to have sex, how to say no to sex, how to be okay with rejection if someone does say no to sex.
Yeah.
So no one's really taught the actual things that you need to be able to navigate life properly. And I was like, you know what? I'm going to go and do that research because all the skills I had learned from studying international relations required a lot of research. Yeah. So I was like, let me just do the research on the topics that are interesting to me and talk about it. And after that, I kind of just blew up. Like I did one episode on how to correctly give a blowjob. Yeah. And it got 1 million views.
Seriously?
Yeah.
Don't ever give head if you're not about it. I'm in the mind of thinking that you need to do things that you consent to. If you don't feel like it, don't fucking do it. I had to hold my mouth there. Don't do it. So, suction. Suck on it, have a grip, use your mouth. Don't think it's just a vacuum. I mean, it can be a vacuum, but sometimes a vacuum can also have too much pressure. Not too much pressure, hold on and grip. And then pull in, but not too much. And also gauge. Different people like different things. Take your time, get into the motion, and see the different things that this person is responding to. I think body language is such a big, important thing. Understanding the person that you are engaging with, because a lot of people think that one blanket approach works for everybody.
And after that, everyone was just like, how do I get my girlfriend to watch this? And then I realized, oh shit, that was just from my own personal experience, from the things that I had discovered in terms of me giving a blowjob. I liked giving blowjobs. Yeah. I liked, engaging.
Do you know what it is? It's different and it's refreshing in a way to see a woman who actually sits there and says, I enjoy sex, I love sex, I own it. Do you know what I'm saying? A lot of women are a bit more in the closet about it. In England, I would say anyway.
No, it's the world. You also have to understand that women's bodies have been dictated by men for centuries. We're not allowed to be sexual. We're not allowed to be loud, or the moment you stand up for yourself, you're aggressive. There's so many different things. We haven't really had autonomy over our body for so long that speaking on something that actually is pleasurable, which is real, is seen as not ladylike, and I think the way in which I was speaking about it was not crass. I wasn't trying to be dirty or what's the word? Yeah, crass is probably just the best word to describe it. I was just being more informative as opposed to very sexually overt. And that resonated with a lot of people because you were learning. At the same time, you're learning from my experience, but I've done the research to adequately package this and tell you why I think these are the top 8 things you need to do to give a good blowjob. And it made sense because also we aren't given the manual on how to have sex. We aren't given a manual on what the right thing to do is. So if you're out here yapping, and people are like, yeah, but that's actually not the right thing, you're exposing yourself. So women won't necessarily want to do that because where have we been taught how to do it correctly? Same with men. Actually, with men, it's a bit different. You get, you get the talk from your older brother. You get the, here's a porn mag. Here's a, well, in the old days. Or watch this link. And I think for men, it's been a little bit different in terms of trying to navigate their sex lives. Whereas women, it's just, oh my gosh, don't have sex, don't talk, don't. So do you
think now we're at a generation where women are, well, more women, should I say, are more like just fuck it, like.
Yeah, we're taking the power back. We're taking autonomy over our own bodies, and we are doing it unashamedly. And I think that's probably the direction that everyone needs to go in every area of their life, because at the end of the day, you're the one who's engaging. So it shouldn't really be based on what other people say you should or shouldn't do. The moment, I think also with women, we realize that we are each other's community. So when you speak, then another woman feels they can come to you and get that information, and then they can share that information, and we all share information amongst each other, and it's growing more, especially because of social media. So I think that's great.
No, that is good. What was your first job, can I ask?
My first job? Ooh, it was probably like an admin job with my parents. I think my first actual job where like I applied and I got the job, I was an intern for an events company. And I was literally just doing all the little nitty gritty things as an assistant that was needed for like corporate events. So that was quite nice and sexy. But I've always loved partying. I've been clubbing since I was 13. And I'm 34. So that's more than half my life I've been in the club. I'm a street girl.
South Africans really love a good party, innit?
We do. It's in our blood. Like, it was kept away from us for so long, we find any excuse to celebrate. So, yeah, we love partying, we love alcohol.
When was you qualified intimacy relationship worker? Or when did you first get a job that was involved in that type of work?
So I don't know if it's that I necessarily got a job. So in 2014, I became a nudist.
Wait, hold on. Can you explain that? You gotta remember, do you know what it is? Not everyone's gonna understand the language.
Okay. So 2014, I went through a breakup, and I thought, let me channel this energy into exercise. And I went to a boot camp, and I had very athletic build. I was like a 12-year-old boy. And they were like, we can give you a bit of shape. And I was like, impossible. Like, there's no exercise that you could do that's going to make me look more feminine. So they were like, okay, let's test it over the next, it was a 20-day boot camp or something like that. And I was like, okay, cool. So because I wanted to prove them wrong, I took pictures of myself every single day in the same mirror, naked. And
was that your own doing?
That was my own.
Was that your challenge?
No. They didn't challenge me. I wanted to see if there was actual changes. And I wanted to prove that there wasn't. But then I started seeing that there was, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm loving the definition. I'm like, why does my ass look higher? I was finding new nuggets and new parts of my body and rediscovering my body, and I was like, this is so cool. And one day I just posted one of the pictures. It was more a silhouette on Twitter. And everyone was like, oh my gosh, who's the model? Because they couldn't see my face. They're like, who took that picture? This is so cool. And I was like, oh, it's me. And I wasn't rejected for it, because of the way in which I put it out there. It was more sophisticated and a little bit more classy, as opposed to very like legs spread open. And then I just started, I'm a rebel at heart. So I just started pushing the boundaries a little bit more, posting. And the more I posted, eventually a kind of movement started where people were then sharing their nudes with me. And I would find the most arbitrary part of their body to compliment them on. So I would be like, oh my gosh, I love the the color of your skin, your porcelain skin against your areola. And, you know, lo and behold, that person actually had issues with the color of their skin. So now they found a newfound love for it.
Yeah.
And a lot more people just started feeling a lot more confident about their bodies because they were looking at it from a lens of no clothes, just in its purest form, and finding parts of their bodies that they actually loved because of someone else's perspective.
Yeah.
So I started off as a nudist. That spiraled into a lot of interviews, TV, radio. I also somewhat discovered polyamory, which is where I didn't even know there was a name for it. I just was like, I had sex with a person for the first time without wanting to be called back, without wanting...
Wait, what's polyamory?
So polyamory is being with multiple people with the consent of your partner. So it's like an open relationship.
Yeah.
There's different forms of polyamory. So sometimes it can be that you are just having sex with other people. Sometimes you're actually in a relationship with other people. Sometimes you're all in a relationship together. It's just how you kind of define it.
So it's a bit like the open relationship.
Yeah, it is a relationship. It's a different form. And so polygamy is when a man has multiple wives.
Yeah.
Polyandry is when a woman has multiple male husbands.
Yeah.
And then polyamory is when you, male or female or non-gendered, choose to engage in any other form of relationship with other people, but your primary partner knows.
What's non-monogamy?
Non-monogamy.
Yeah, what is that?
Same. Ethical non-monogamy. It's the same. And the ethical part comes from the honesty, the transparency.
Yeah.
So I realized that I wanted to have sex with different people and I enjoyed it just for the pure pleasure of it. But I didn't want to feel like I had to be tied down to one person because I was in a relationship. And monogamy was all that I knew before that. So then I started getting interviewed on that. There was a time I was on a TV show because also...
In South Africa.
Yeah. They were like, you're just looking for an excuse to fuck around. And I was like, maybe that is what it is. But now that I've discovered that there's a name and there's a community and that there's people who are like me, I want to engage in that. Why should I force myself to do something that I'm not comfortable doing when there's actually people out there doing the same thing? And if I hadn't done those kind of interviews, I wouldn't have known about the communities. And I think that's where those kinds of things are hidden, especially in the African context, because unless it's a man having multiple wives, why would a woman be allowed to have multiple sexual partners? She just becomes a slut, you know? So there was a lot of backlash that I was getting. Even my family was getting a lot of it because they were just like, she's putting this on TV and you guys are from a Christian home, so how are you allowing this? So there was a lot of like conflict from the outside world. My parents trying to also understand why. You've got the best example of a monogamous relationship in front of you. We've been married for X amount of years and we love each other.
Yeah, I could imagine your parents must have been thinking, where's my daughter getting all this energy? They
didn't understand. But I think I didn't understand it either because I'm like, why would God give me this desire? Why would God give me this opportunity or this space or this, community of people who are doing and wanting the same things if it wasn't about choice? But sometimes you also have to understand that like not everything is of God, but that's a different story. My parents were always very supportive. Even though they didn't understand. And that's what made all the difference. So then from the interviews, I now have got my partner who I'm actually in a monogamous relationship with now. So started off polyamorous and now it's moved into...
How long have you been with your partner?
For 4 years.
4 years?
Yeah.
Do you live with him?
I do.
And would you say all those things that you've been through are the reasons why you decided to become a sex and relationship therapist? I'm just going to put your partner to the side a second.
I think, I wanted to understand why I was so different to my siblings. We're all raised the same way. How come they're monogamous? Like, where did this suddenly come from? Why do I have all of this sexual energy? Why am I so sexually desired? Is it something that I can switch off? Sometimes I did want to switch it off. I wanted to turn off the looks, the sexualizing of me, because sometimes I'm like, just know me, like my character, like me. So I wanted to understand why I was so different, and that's what actually started my YouTube channel. And then people just started coming to me as a source, as a resource for the questions that they had. Married couples, older couples, people who were struggling with trauma, and then suddenly I was like, oh, this is getting real. So in 2020, that's when I got my certification. Okay. To give myself credibility.
So then when you met your partner, was he into open relationship already? Did you meet him in that scene?
No. So I met him in Ghana. I had just moved to Ghana from South Africa. I wanted a bit of a change and to see where my mother was from. And I met him, and he knew I was seeing other people. And because that was my boundary, I was like, I didn't come here to be in a relationship. I didn't come here to meet a husband. So you're going to let me do me, or you're just not going to be with me. Until eventually the others just kind of fizzled out. And then there was him. But it has started off very, very stormy. Obviously, because as a Black African, West African man, having your girlfriend, who at the time I was also on OnlyFans, so it was just on OnlyFans, sleeping with different people. Now all your boys are like, yo, dog, are you sure you want to wife this? Like, you know?
You mentioned OnlyFans.
Yeah.
And what was you doing? Your feet or something? I know girls be doing all sorts of. Girls be doing their fingers on them things there.
Yeah, no, foot fetish is a big market, but that's not actually what I was doing. I was just, because I was so comfortable being naked on the internet, someone's actually the one who suggested, saying, well, you've just quit your corporate job, why don't you do OnlyFans? And I was like, because I don't want my nudity to become a job. I'm doing it because it empowers me and I feel good and I like what I'm putting out there, but I didn't want it to become a job until I was like, okay, let's just try it. So I did it quietly because I already had a bit of a following on Instagram. So I didn't really want people to know too much. And it took like one person to find me. And then after that, it was like, and then COVID happened. So it was also the perfect timing. I think like it was perfectly aligned in the sense that I had just started my company from a sexual wellness perspective. I had also started OnlyFans. So people were coming to me for different things. I was big up for OnlyFans. There was couples who needed my therapy. And it was just like, I was busy. 2020 was a year. And I... Did
you make a success from OnlyFans? Would you say it was very lucrative?
Yeah, definitely. It's probably the most money I've made ever.
Really?
Yeah, I think 1 month, if I convert, it was like something like £7,000 or whatever.
A month?
Not every month consistently, but I think like my biggest withdrawal at a time was like 7K. And that was just from smoking a joint naked, being in the bath,
cleaning up.
And people just, it felt like I was the girlfriend next door. That was what my niche was. So when I coach girls now, because I coach people who want to be on OnlyFans, and when I coach them, I always say, find your niche because there's a market out there for everybody, for anything. So find the thing that you enjoy doing the most because that will attract your own market. And that's what happened with me.
Wow. I don't even know what to say. I mean, smoking the joint naked and you got 7K a month. Yeah, crazy. What would you say is the most misconception thing about your work, or what people think about your work?
So I get a lot of emails of people thinking that I exchange sex for money as opposed to sexual health for money. So I have to constantly tell people that I don't do hookups. But I don't know if it's that it's the field of work that I'm in, or if it's that I have somewhat a reputation because of OnlyFans.
Yeah.
So I don't know if people are confusing the work that I do or if they just aren't sure if I still do OnlyFans. So I can't really say what the biggest misconception is with the kind of work that I do, but I do know that from other sexual wellness advocates, they also get confused in the sense that people think that if you're talking about sex, then you must be having a lot of it. And that's not always the case. If anything, I'm very sensual outwardly, but sex is really the last thing on my mind for myself personally all the time. And people are like, oh, you must be a nymph. And I'm like, actually, no. I have sex maybe once a month, twice, you know. Like, it's not even something I think about when I'm not doing it. I don't get horny. Even when I'm watching porn, it becomes very theoretical. I start to study it as opposed to get turned on by it. So it's just, I think that would probably be the biggest mistake.
Do you think that's because you've probably been exposed to sex? I wouldn't really say you've been exposed to sex because you lost your virginity at 18, but you done a lot of research about sex at a young age and it was just always in your face. Do you think now it doesn't really hit you the same anymore?
No, I know because I'm quite self-aware. I think the reason porn doesn't stimulate me in that regard is because I have to be physically stimulated. I'm very much into energy in the room. So even when I was doing OnlyFans, it was really hard for me to actually be enjoying, because eventually it went from just being naked to actually playing with myself on camera. And when I was doing that, I wasn't enjoying it because one, I never played with myself before unless someone was watching me. So there had to be someone in the room for me to really like what I was doing. And that's when I realized it wasn't the pleasure of the actual action. It was the fact that I was turning someone else on. That's what turns me on. So I know that porn won't turn me on unless there's somebody who I can get turned on with in the room. So,
Being a South African woman as you are, half Ghanaian woman, are there any unique challenges that you encounter working in your field? Like, is it a big taboo in your culture to have your job title, to openly talk about sex, to be so confident about sex?
It depends on how it's framed. At first, when I did first start, everyone was just like, you just want to talk about sex. And I think that's why my mom encouraged me to get my certification, so there was some ability.
So your mom thought, get a certificate.
Yeah, so that you can speak about it from a perspective of not just wanting or doing, but also from the research that you do. When I first started, there was a lot of people who were very like, you're very different. You're a different type of black. Like, that's not how we do things. And even now, even my friends are like, but Lindi, you're wild. And I'm just like, no. But I think that the world is shifting. With social media and access to so much information, there's a lot more people who are openly speaking about sexual health. So I think that as much as it's a taboo around the world, even in the UK, actually, like, I didn't think the UK was as conservative as it is.
Oh, we are.
Everyone's really conservative.
It's too conservative.
I thought, I'm going to come into like my tribe. I'm going to be like, there's just so many people talking about sex all the time.
You need to go to France for that.
I need to go to America.
Yeah, America, definitely.
I'll be in Atlanta. But I think at the beginning, like, there was a bit of a taboo, but right now, the conversation's opening up a lot more, so it's not seen as too much of a taboo. Yeah.
Okay. I mean, I like how confident you are. Like, honestly, I mean it. I don't think I've ever met a woman so confident looking, do you know what I'm saying? And just openly speak about sex in front of me, Mel, like, and it's like, why not? Do you know what I mean? Because it's life, innit? And I feel like the more females do open up about sex and their sexual relations, maybe not straight away, but I think over time, men may not have the trigger to be able to, like, call women a hoe or a slag or look what you're doing, because it's like, they own it.
Still do it. Men will do it because men don't call women names because of the things they do it to disempower women. And men do it because they need that power themselves because of their own insecurities. So it doesn't matter what we're doing. We could be fully covered, not having sex, and men will find an issue with how quiet we are. You know, there's always something, and that's just because men need to deal a lot with their own traumas. And I'm not trying to bash men in any way. I think, if anything, the boy child needs to be protected at all costs, because at the end of the day, they somewhat shape a lot of the future, from how women are engaged with, how women are treated, how men see themselves. So I think that, it doesn't matter what a woman does or doesn't do. Men will always find a way to bring her down.
Speaking about men, now that we're on the subject of men, what, from your experience and from your work, what would you say the most common challenges are that men face, like in sexual relationships or relationships?
Societal standards, a lot of trauma, misconceptions about their bodies, self-confidence. And I think that societal standards are probably the most challenging aspect, because they're also constantly evolving. So a man is a man if he does this. A man doesn't cry. A man this, a man that. A man must be in control. And, you know, there's so much information coming from so many different places that I think it's hard for men to actually figure out what works best for them. They're always trying to go according to either what they've been taught at home, what their boys are saying. It's also peer pressure. So there's so many different angles that men have to now draw from in order to figure out what the right thing is to do sexually, instead of looking within.
I feel like men are, judged a lot on their sexual performance. Do you know what I mean? And I think that plays a part, how they may carry themselves or how they may be. For example, you have sex with a woman, you put your all in that you can, and then you get told your penis is too small, or you just a 1 minute man. I mean, that's...
But, you know, I think those are also projections. Like, women have become a lot meaner over time, but it hasn't always been like that. But men have always felt somewhat insecure in some instances, whether it's about the size of their penis, how long they last, performance anxiety. There's so many stress, your diet. There's so many different things that can contribute to how you perform in the bedroom. And it's not just based on feedback. You know, it's also what you go into the bedroom thinking about yourself. And I think once we address the confidence within, or lack thereof, then it won't really matter whether a woman's saying you've got a small penis, because small penises can still be used. You can still get pleasure from it. You can still give pleasure.
So size doesn't matter? No,
I don't think size matters at all. I think a lot of people will say it does, because for them it's what they want to feel, but they're not actually understanding that there's so much that can be done with the size that the person has. If it's really, really small, you still have to figure out that there's other ways of giving pleasure. It doesn't only have to come from your penis. But a lot of men hold their ego and their status and, you know, their masculinity in their penis. And as a result, anyone can say the smallest of things and be like, yeah, you were so terrible. And then suddenly your life is falling apart.
It's true. It is just word, guys. Like, don't worry. If a girl says, trust me, it's not you, it's them.
Don't listen to him.
So how can men open up about their feelings without feeling weak or judged? Like, what's the best, like, how, you know it is, men open up about their feelings and you might be called too emotional. You know, have you ever heard that, he's too emotional, he just keeps open?
Yeah, but what's too emotional? Okay. my first point of advice is to start small. Start with the person who you trust the most. Start with the person who you feel you can speak about anything with. It can be your brother, it can be your boy, it can be your mum, it can be anybody that you feel you will not be shunned afterwards. And maybe start testing the waters with the things that you speak on. It doesn't always have to be sexual from the get-go, because the moment you build trust with a person or a community, you feel a lot more confident sharing anything with that community. And then it won't be a thing of, oh, you're too emotional. It'll be a thing of, wow, thank you for feeling comfortable enough to share that with us. It needs to start with your boys. My younger brother is he's 10 years younger than me.
Yeah.
And he's such a mature guy, because he's always speaking to his boys saying, yo, listen, if you're alone with a girl in a room, make sure that you are putting measures in place to know that that girl wants to be there. Make sure you're constantly asking if she's okay, asking if she needs anything. Going out, letting people know, hey, we're in here together. She wants to be in, and it's unfortunate that men have to put so many different measures in place when they are innocent to prove their innocence.
Yeah.
However, if a 24-year-old boy can talk to his friends about that, then why can't you speak to your boys as a 36-year-old man?
Yeah.
You know, it's about you leaning on your friends in order for you to start to build that confidence in speaking on things that won't make you feel weak just because you've expressed emotion.
What advice would you give to young teenagers who are going through puberty right now, and they're getting all these feelings in their body and they don't really know how to deal with it?
Oh, what advice would I have liked? Well, I know that the internet can be a very dangerous place, but it can also be a real great well of knowledge, a source of knowledge. And I think educating yourself on what it is that you're going through, maybe you don't necessarily want to talk to somebody, but you need to understand what you're feeling. And there's different resources that you can tap into in order to gain that information. And it's not just TikTok, it's not just social media. Those are very good resources as well. Yeah. But there are books, there's the internet, and all you have to do is literally do a search and say, this is what I'm feeling, because you're talking to a stranger. Like, the internet is not someone who can come back and say you're too emotional, unless it's like AI. But
AI will ruin you.
But there's access to information that a lot of people in the past didn't have. Yeah. There's different organizations that you can get information from as a youth. Obviously, if you're in an impoverished space, or there's not a lot of access to those resources, then I would suggest maybe leaning on to the next person, the person who's older, the person who you trust, the person who won't say, don't talk about those things. But I think that's the only way that you can start to navigate how you're feeling and what you're feeling, because speaking will help you process what you're going through. And it'll help you understand how to manage it. Because you're openly speaking on it. Yeah.
I mean, obviously, as you know, I've spent a lot of time in prison. It's been a part of my life. Prison is one of those places that you can go in there a normal person mentally, and you might come out and appear normal, as in that there's nothing wrong with him, he's fine, whatever, but psychologically, you actually not okay. You develop things that you may not have had when you went inside prison. For example, sex addiction. I know a lot of men that has gone into prison and come out of prison with a big sex addiction. What would you say about sex addiction, and how can those who suffer with sex addiction, either in prison or in the community, can deal with that?
So I think sex addiction, or any form of addiction, is definitely something that stems from mental frustration, lack of course, in prison, there's a lack of resources from that perspective, whether it's engaging sexually or even understanding. I mean, people speak on mental health, but not from a sex perspective always. And I can't really speak because I haven't been in prison, but I do know that when you're confined to a space, you're already on a level of frustration. You need to be able to exert that healthily. Sometimes sex can be that outlet, but if you're not able to have sex, then there's a lot of hormones that you're dealing with. There's a lot of lack of access to the things that will help you feel like you're having that release. And that can add on to already existing issues. Sometimes people go into prison thinking that they're okay, but there's a lot of trauma that hasn't actually been dealt with. And trauma can lead to addiction of any kind. Sometimes there's an intersectionality of addiction. Sometimes you're addicted to, maybe it's drugs, and that can also make you addicted to other things, which could also be sex addiction. So I think from the resources that need to be utilized if you're in prison, you need to understand what it is at your disposal. You need to know what you have or what you have access to. You need to educate yourself. Obviously, it's not necessarily through the internet, but there are books. There's the library. There's your peers. There's your wardens who may be able to say, okay, speak to this mental health person about this. And I think leaning into your brothers or sisters jail is going to, because with mental health, a lot of the recovery and the management of mental health issues come from community, and you need to have that outlet of community to be able to speak. And if you're educating yourself and then sharing that information amongst yourselves, you're helping each other with coping mechanisms. You're helping each other manage. And I think that's the only thing you really can do if you are tapping into how to fix yourself from a mental health perspective. You can potentially prevent addiction, or you can help manage addiction. If it's an addiction, it's sometimes also very hard to let go of, but sex addiction is something that I think can be cured. Whereas there's certain drug addictions.
Do you think it can be cured, sex addiction? Okay. By what? Having sex?
No.
What's the other options?
The core of addiction. So with addiction, addiction becomes an issue. Addiction becomes addiction when it is harming you or the next person. Okay. So if you're just having a lot of sex, you just like a lot of sex. You can't always be classified as an addict. But the moment you start harming somebody, or if it's interrupting your day-to-day activities where you're not able to sleep, you're struggling at work, you're finding like, you have this itch and you need to get out, you're harming children, you're harming yourself, that's when it becomes an addiction. Of course. If you're just having a lot of sex, you're just like, I know, and a lot of people throw words around so loosely, like, oh, I'm such a nymph. No, a nymphomaniac is an actual mental health issue. It is a sex addiction. So a lot of people just use the wrong terminology for what it is that they're experiencing. But if you're educating yourself, you'll know whether you're an addict. And if you are educating yourself, then you'll also figure out ways to address what you could potentially be going through if it's not addiction. And it's always psychological. All addiction is always psychological. So that would be the best place to start. How do you fix what it is at the core in order to prevent it from spiraling into potentially harming yourself or others? That's a very good answer. I did say I'm with the expert today, guys. So we're gonna be learning a lot today. So earlier you said that you are in a relationship with your partner. You've been together for 4 years. Obviously now you're not poly in the relationship. Sometimes. So I am not practicing polyamory. But the fundamentals of why polyamory works for the communities that do engage, I still believe in. So it's not to say that I suddenly have just denounced everything that I was doing before. It's just that I'm no longer engaging. It's just not the path that I'm on. Right now, But I understand feeling like you can be 100% honest. And this is why I liked being polyamorous, okay?
Yeah.
I could be honest. I could engage with different people and grow the connection that I had with different people.
Yeah.
Because, you know, we are told to restrict ourselves. When you're in a monogamous relationship, you meet somebody and you've got mad chemistry, but you're like, oh, wait, I'm not allowed to have this chemistry. I need to stop talking to you. I need to stop seeing you. This is going to be dangerous. But it doesn't deny the fact that there was chemistry in the first place. Because at the end of the day, our animalistic instinct is to want the opposite sex, to want the same sex, whatever your animalistic instinct is telling you in that moment, you should be allowed to hone it. You should be allowed to grow it. You should be allowed to indulge in it to the point of your own satisfaction.
Yeah.
And that's what I loved about polyamory, because I felt powerful. I felt confident. I felt like, hey, I am actively choosing the things that I enjoy and doing it, you know? And there was nobody who was saying, no, you can't do this because you're harming me, because I wasn't with people who were monogamous.
Yeah.
Until obviously now I am. But when I was in polyamorous relationships, in fact, I've never been in a polyamorous relationship. I've been polyamorous in a polyamorous relationship.
Okay.
And I've been engaging with multiple people, and all of them have been aware, but it's never been, I have a primary boyfriend who I'm allowing to go and sleep with other people, who's allowing me to go and sleep with other people. I've just always been single and polyamorous.
How do you manage to be able to do that and make it safe for yourself and for them?
Transparency.
Yeah. Transparency.
If you are honest, and even so, for example, I had a threesome, and the first thing we did, we knew we were going to have a threesome. First thing we all did was to go and get tested.
Yeah.
That was just a basic. It was a non-spoken rule. We just went, got tested for absolutely everything under the sun. And once those came back, we had so much fun.
Yeah.
It was relaxed. It was free. It was calm. And nobody had any hang-ups about, what could potentially happen? You know, we don't know your status. Obviously, it's different when it's in a spontaneous moment.
Yeah.
I've also had a threesome where it was spontaneous, and after the fact, I thought, oh my gosh, like, did he change condoms between the two of us? Like, you know, but it was with my best friend, so I didn't feel too worried. But it got to a point where I've done an episode on threesome etiquette on my YouTube channel as well, because that was something I was really interested in. I was like, how does this work? How do we do this properly? And there are proper ways to do it. It's all about getting down to the point of being safe, making sure that you're safe. It might kill the moment. It might kill the buzz. It might kill, like, you know, the chemistry. But at the end of the day, chemistry is something that can be picked up right back again, and you're going to be safe. Yeah. So, yeah.
What are some reasons why a woman might struggle to enjoy sex? And how can her partner support her, essentially?
So, women, I need us to be real with ourselves in establishing whether we know what we want. It's hard to effectively communicate what a man should be doing, or woman, whoever your partner is, if you don't know what it is that you want yourself. And that requires self-awareness. It requires self-work. It requires you to actively and intentionally understand your body and yourself so that you can get supported with the things that you need. Yeah. And I think a lot of the issues that come with women not enjoying sex is, one of them is because they don't actually know what they want. Yeah. But even when they do know what they want, we have been stifled for so long that we don't know how to effectively communicate without it potentially harming the next person from an ego perspective. And a lot of the time, women who engage with women actually are able to talk to each other a lot more because it's easy to talk to each other. Yeah. But women who engage with men, we're always so worried about what it will do to their ego. And how a man can support a woman in that instance is to infer, constantly say, is this okay? Did you like that? And so I do a workshop. It's like a day's workshop where we go through, it's called the sex tour. And it's the beginning, during and after sex. All the different things that you need to consider in order for you to have a holistic sexual experience. And in the aftercare is so important because that can also determine how the next encounter will be. But in the aftercare, I always tell people, don't make feedback so formal. It's not a thing of, hey, I would just like to let you know that when you went down on me, you missed the clip 3 times, and I just feel like it doesn't have to be that way. Always start with the things you did enjoy.
100.
Always start with positivity. Praise the person for the things that they did well,
100.
because that boosts a person's confidence so that when you're telling them the things that you would prefer they had done or giving suggestions for next time without saying you didn't do 1, 2, 3, you say, hey, next time, do you think maybe we could do a little bit more doggy or longer, you know? Because then that person will know, oh, you actually liked the doggy, because how are you supposed to know? How is a man supposed to know a woman and vice versa? Or how is a woman supposed to know a woman or a man supposed to know a man if it's your first time or if it's a new relationship? It requires you putting in the work
100.
and it requires you being honest without putting the person down, because the goal is not to make the person feel small, because you want that person to pleasure you and to feel confident when they're doing it. But if you're putting the person down and saying you didn't do X, Y, Z, you're not going to get what it is that you want. So you need to support each other in how you communicate, and it can be over pillow talk. It can be like, oh my gosh, that was so great. I think next time we need to add a third person. Or it can be in the shower. Intimacy is probably the best time to give feedback, because you're in a safe space with one another. So all the things that get shared will not feel like an attack.
I like that answer. If I was to reverse that question and for the men, how can men be more attuned to a woman's body? You know, just... You basically did answer it, but in terms of like her actual unique needs and preferences in the bedroom.
Okay, well, besides asking, because sometimes verbal communication isn't always the easiest. Definitely look at body language. Listen to moans or lack thereof. Watch how a person reacts to a new move. I think it just requires you to be very present and to be selfless. I think a lot of people are very selfish in the bedroom, and it's all about I, and I wasn't getting this, and this is what I want. But be willing to hold off on your own satisfaction in order to satisfy the next person. And the same goes for women, because like it's always like, oh my gosh, no, I don't suck dick. Like, what do you mean?
Ask that again in that.
Why do you not suck dick? I mean, and there might be real valid reasons as to why it's just not for you. But then you have to now start thinking, okay, but how can I then compromise? How can I still pleasure my partner to the point where he's feeling fully satisfied, but not completely going against yourself and making yourself feel uncomfortable. It does require a lot of work, and I don't think people are willing to put in the work, because sex is always supposed to be just pleasure, but it is a lot of work, especially in the context of a relationship. If it's just a one-nighter, usually the chemistry is what carries the night anyway.
Of course.
Like if you're having a one-night stand, it's just like, whoa, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, good times. And, you know, the energy will carry the pleasure. But if it's in a relationship or in a consistent engagement, you do need to put in the work. And it requires you not only listening, but watching body language, movement, moans. Oh, she arched her back a little bit more when
Scratches.
I did that.
She scratched me a bit deep.
No, exposing yourself.
No, I'm just going with the theme today.
Really? Yeah, we'll go with that.
I'm going with the theme today, So, obviously, we've all watched porn, right? Well, some people say they haven't, but most of us have all seen porn. a lot of guys in prison watch porn in the morning, at lunchtime, in the afternoon, at night, when they wake up at 2 a.m. to go to the toilet, to get back to sleep. They might watch porn again. And that's probably like about 5, 6 times I've said.
Do you guys have phones in prison?
We have phones. Whether we're allowed them or not is a different matter. But
fair enough.
There's phones, there's other things as well that people can get to watch things. But I guess my question to you is that as a man who's incarcerated in prison and you are watching porn, I mean, it's not even just guys in prison. I think there's a lot of people in society even that may suffer with porn addiction. Mm-hmm. And obviously with technology rising and AI rising, now you can buy dolls that you have sex with. You don't even have to be with a woman anymore. Do you think that there's a risk of like people not connecting anymore, and there's a risk of people not being able to get that touch, that feel, especially for those who depend on porn?
Yeah, definitely. Well, with porn addiction, again, an addiction is something that either harms you or the next person. And with the addiction, it desensitizes you. It makes you void of emotional connection. And you become so dependent on that particular stimuli that you suddenly can't get pleasured in any other way if it's not through watching porn. That is something that's fixable. Because
there's couples that even need or have porn on in the background whilst they're having sex, and without that porn on in the background, they might not be able to get stimulated.
Yeah, but so that's not really an addiction, but it is something that can be looked into from a perspective of how can we create sexual, enjoyable moments outside of that. So it's about creating a list of things that you could potentially do, research, and again, I'm just going to keep harping on about this because it's so important. Understanding yourself and understanding the core of what your pleasure is will help you determine other areas or other things that you can do in order to get that pleasure. And as a couple, even better if you're trying to figure it out together, because there's couples therapy, there's physical couples therapy, there's sex parties, there's so many other things that you can do to think, oh, maybe porn is not all the be all and end all. Yeah. But it's not the easiest thing to do because sexual education is just not thrown in people's faces. This is where you can go if you have this. This is where it requires a lot of work, but it's not impossible to figure out ways outside of porn that can stimulate you as a couple and still give you a lot of pleasure. For those who are addicted, again, it requires you to deal with the core of the psychological issue that got you there in the first place.
Do you think sex toys is one of the best things created for women? Or do you think sex toys has kind of made women want more, but maybe too much in a way where it may actually be unrealistic?
You see, the thing with sex toys and women in particular is that women are getting the phallic object to pleasure them instead of trying to get the man to do the same thing. So it's easy to not have to talk to this toy and say, no, do this. Oh, you missed it again. Oh, the frustration when you're just trying to bust a nut. You know exactly what to do and how to touch your own buttons in order to get that satisfaction. But when you are engaging with another person, it requires a lot more energy, a lot more work, a lot more, okay, fine.
I gotta tell him what to do.
Like, also women just assume that men should know what to do. Like the same way men actually assume that women should just know how to ride. No, it actually requires, it's a skill.
That's why I like the control thing I said at the beginning. Because the teach, you know what I'm saying?
But is that still teaching? You're still in control.
100.
If you let go of that control, would she still do it correctly?
Yeah.
And she might, depending on how long you've had sex, because she'll learn your rhythm.
Yeah,
she'll actually know, okay, this is what he likes. This is how he likes his tip sensation, all of that. But that comes over time. So there are things that people can do that can assist in understanding themselves, and porn doesn't have to be the be-all and end-all, and toys are definitely not the be-all and end-all. I don't think toys make women want more. I think toys have made women lazier in telling men how to pleasure them. Yeah. Because you're just like, you know what, it's okay, you don't have to worry, I got this. Yeah. You know? Yeah. I personally don't use toys.
Ever?
I mean, unless the other person is controlling it, but not by myself. Yeah. Again, my pleasure comes from knowing that I'm turning somebody else on. So not that's how I get turned on. Yeah. So if the person is using the toy on me and they're feeling like, yo, I'm the man, I'm going to be like, yeah, baby, you're the man. That's going to turn me on.
You the man, nigga. What would you say is like the biggest myth about sex and relationship that you wish more men or more couples understood?
I think that ego needs to be removed from sex. I think the only way to actually get down to what it is that you like and what you want is if you take away your own ego and that of the other person who you're engaging with. Yeah. And I say that because we're always so scared of what the other person might think, what they might say, how they might feel, and not really thinking about how we communicate in order for us to get what we want. Because at the end of the day, you're the one who's engaging. So if you're engaging in sex and it's not pleasurable for you, it's gonna require you to tell the other person, and you have to remove ego from that. And I think no one's kind of willing, especially men, is willing to do that.
Wait, what are we not willing to do?
Remove ego from sex.
That's true. I have to agree with you on that, because obviously a lot of men want to feel like they're the alpha, innit? Yeah. That's just the bottom line.
And again, that also comes from animalistic instinct. Yeah. That comes from your predator instinct. It comes from the hunter-gatherer. Like you're the
silver,
one,
gorilla.
Yeah. So it's not only psychological, it's also how your DNA makeup is.
So would you say there's like any rules about relationships that you think are outdated? Or just or harmful, actually?
Outdated. I think monogamy is outdated. Yeah. No. I take that back. I don't think monogamy is outdated. I think that monogamy is not the only form of intimacy, a form of sexual relations. And I think that the more people who are monogamous start to accept others, the more comfortable the world will be. Like, just enjoy what you enjoy, but don't judge the next person. Because everyone thinks, and again, it's a bit tricky now, because now I'm having to think about my religious affiliation, and as a Christian, like, you know, it's supposed to be a man and a woman and they shall be one and just them, you know? But the moment you start to think about adding a third party into the mix, it's other. So unless it's your Christian or your religious responsibility, I don't think that you should be so hard on others who want to engage differently. If it's not harming you, leave them the fuck alone. Like, if someone wants to go and have sex with another man and he's a man, why does that bother you so much? How is that affecting you? It's not a disease that gets passed on to your children. it literally has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
So why should you have an opinion on it anyway?
I agree. I totally agree. In terms of like relationships, what sort of advice would you give a couple to help them improve it? Not just the sex part, but just the overall relationship.
Think of the next person. Be considerate.
Be mindful.
Be mindful, but be considerate. I think when you are considerate of the next person, like if I think of my partner, like I think that there's a lot that he had to deal with when I was polyamorous and he was monogamous.
Yeah.
It couldn't have been easy thinking of the fact that your girl is going out and she's sleeping with someone else.
Yeah.
Like as a man, it can definitely affect your ego, it can affect your confidence. But he was able to separate the person from the action. And I think that's why we are where we are today. And that's why it was an easy crossover for me, because it was just like, you have been selfless in trying to understand and navigate me and still loving me in spite of it, that what's not having sex with other people, like that doesn't affect me anymore. Like it's not a loss for me. I'm not lacking. And I think that has been a big example of how people should really consider each other in relationships, because when you're thinking of the next person, you're more likely going to find solutions, resolutions, and not ostracize or judge them for things done, because we're human at the end of the day.
If someone's nervous about seeking therapy for relationship issues, what would you tell them?
Start small. It's like I said before, start with your closest and trusted person next to you, because practicing speaking will help you process what you're feeling and what you're going through, and then it will make the conversation with a stranger a little bit easier. Also start off with more online as opposed to face-to-face, or as opposed to in person, because that's the same thing, because it feels less pressure if you're just chatting to someone over text. You know, I think a lot of us hide behind our phones, but in this instance, it can be good to kind of open up to that potential of you speaking to someone who can help you from a professional perspective.
Thank you. That was a very good answer. I think you're very good at your job. Like in terms of like your wealth of knowledge mixed with your own life experience and putting those two together, I mean, you're good, you're brilliant. Do you know what I mean? Because you're using real life experience as well. You're not just a relationship and wellness coach, but at home you're a prune. do you know? do you get what I mean? It'll be a bit like, do you know what I'm saying? But you've actually lived it. You're talking the talk, and you've got workshops. You're helping young girls, older girls, women with their sexual life. I'm gonna finish up. I mean, I would love to have you here all day, all night. We can talk about this, but I want to talk about menopause in women and older women and men. Do men get menopause? Is that even a thing?
I don't know if there's a male equivalent, but I do know that our hormones start to drop as we get older. So I'm sure there is a male version, but I would be lying if I said that for sure. So I wouldn't want to, don't quote me. What do you want to know?
But for the older viewers that may be watching this and they're going through the menopause stage or the menopause phase, what advice would you tell them, or can you give them something that's going to comfort them at the time?
Okay. I think menopause is something to be embraced, and it's hard to speak as someone who's not really experienced it, because there's a lot that happens, from hot flashes to memory loss to not being able to hold your weed to what is menopause for those that I don't actually know what menopause is? Menopause is just aging. It's when your bodily functions start to somewhat deteriorate from a hormonal perspective, perspective because you're getting older, so you're producing less of a certain hormone. And I'm speaking very vaguely on this because I don't actually know the proper definition of it, but it's just when your body starts to change based on the fact that you are getting older. And I think that's something that needs to be embraced. I think when you have a mindset of it being a beautiful thing, you're reframing or redefining what it means to be older and looking at it as having lived. Because obviously there's people who experience pre-menopause, like they experience early menopause. So that might even happen before you get into your 60s. It can happen for some people even in their 30s, which is the bodily response to it as opposed to your age. But I think it's something where, from an older perspective, that needs to be embraced, because once you embrace it, you start to find the beauty and the fact that you have lived, your body has experienced life, and it has now come this full circle moment where, okay, it's starting to no longer function the way it did, but it has functioned. You know, you have had that opportunity to feel young and vibrant, and don't be scared to get old. I think we need to embrace the fact that the older you are, the more life you've lived, so the wiser you are, just based on experience. And if you change your mindset, you can change your experience. So I think start to embrace it. Love the fact that you can even say you got to the point of having experienced menopause, and then start to find ways to navigate and manage it, because you're not alone. Because there's so many different community groups, there's different information that you can get access to, and then there's your girls, there's you know, people who are the same age as you who may be experiencing it too. Find ways to manage and deal together, because there's wholesomeness and comfort in community.
And sex is still a thing.
Sex is a thing until your back is cracking. You get it, granny. But like, you really, sex shouldn't ever be a thing that stops so long as you can physically do it.
Thank you for coming on today. Where can people find you, like find your YouTube, your social media?
So I haven't posted on YouTube in a while, but it is called Touch My Yoni, and my social media is Lindi_R for rabbit on all social media platforms.
Thank you. Guys, if you want the best advice, sexual advice, if you just want someone to talk to about your body changing or anything like that, females, male, young male, older male, then follow those social handles, and I'm sure she's more than willing to give you advice and support. Right, thank you guys. I hope you really enjoyed this show. I mean, GloTalks is all about getting on different types of people with wealth of information, getting the community together. There's not any like limits to my channel. Please like, comment and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more episodes. Thank you. GloTalks, train the body, train the mind.